guys. Welcome to our podcast.
She finally realized that it was all mental. What's up, y'all? We are back for episode 2. So excited. I've got Anya here with me.
What's up, Peyton? How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm a little sore, though. I'm not going to lie, guys.
Tell me about that. What did you do this past weekend? How was your weekend?
I decided that it'd be a good idea to play about 3 doubles matches in a row. 2 out of 3 sets, guys. Thankfully, 10-point breaker for the third, but we didn't get to that point. Thank goodness, because I would have died. But yeah, we're basically at the courts from, the good old 9 a.m. until about probably, 5 p.m. So, I felt like I was honestly back in juniors at this point, which is a little bit scary.
It's so nostalgic, right? Like you missed it so much.
So nostalgic. But I thought it was really funny because, we were talking about the yips last week, and I obviously had the yips on my forehand at university and in juniors and things like that, which I talked about. But funny enough, my backhand was actually worse than my forehand.
Oh,
in these matches.
I love how that works.
I was like, am I in an alternate universe or something? I was genuine. So I was playing the backhand side, but I was running around my backhand and hitting forehands.
Who would have thought? Honestly, who would have thought?
Have you ever seen that? Me?
It's probably that lack of pressure. Yeah. Just crazy.
No,
or
but
just taking some time away from all the bad things associated.
Yeah, no, but
that time
there wasn't pressure, but there low-key kind of was, because I was playing people that were probably 10 years younger than me, and I was like, no, I can't lose. It was one of those things, playing not to lose, but no, it was much better than usual. But it's just crazy how now, your body just doesn't bounce back like it used to, not even close.
Oh, yeah. I went for a run yesterday, and I can't walk today. And I think I ran 3 miles. Yeah. Total.
It makes me think, how in the world did we do what we did at university? The schedule was insane, which is obviously the topic for today. So we're getting right into it. But, I look back now and I'm like, wow, that was a lot. I could never do that now. Never, ever could do that now.
Same. We just had so many responsibilities and different things that we had to do every single day, every single week.
Right.
I wonder how we got through it, because
same.
I think back to it now and I feel like I was just a robot on autopilot. Yeah. Just go. Well,
it's kind of like you had to. There was no other choice. You had to.
But here's the thing. I didn't feel like that in the moment. I think looking back at it, I feel very confused as to how we made it through. But in the moment, I was thinking, oh, this is fine.
Yeah.
This is nothing crazy.
This is normal.
Because you haven't really experienced anything else at that point.
Right. Exactly.
Just thinking this is normal. But yeah, guys, our schedules, everyone's schedules as a student athlete were insane. And obviously it varies by sport, but
yeah,
there's basically a common thread through all of them where you're just practicing, then you're at class, then you're at the trainer, and then you travel, then you compete, then you get home and you have to do homework and repeat every single day, every single week.
Yeah, it's pretty much just like a cycle. I think it's honestly like a job at that point, so I think that's almost like the framework of how you have to look at it. But yeah, so I think, in this episode, we really do want to go a bit more detailed into the life of a student athlete and really the sacrifices that come with it and how you can actually manage all of it. Because as we know, it's quite difficult to do. But yeah, we'll be looking into kind of habit formation, time management. We'll be looking at that a bit, reducing burnout, because that's a huge problem, especially nowadays, with how crazy the schedules are and how jam-packed that is. And, also looking at how to actually use your support system and the people around you, which I think is really important. And then at the end, we'll kind of get into some mindfulness techniques too, which I think can actually be pretty helpful.
For sure.
Yeah. So I think for people that are listening, I think it's honestly, this episode will be really helpful for people that are actually deciding if they want to do this. It's like, okay, let's take a step back and let's look at what sacrifices you're actually going to have to make, you know, what you're going to have to put your body through, what you're going to have to put your mind through, because it is a lot. And I don't think people are super aware of it. I think a lot of my friends that I know actually, you know, they went D1 and then they got there and they were like, you know what?
Not for
this
me.
This isn't for me.
Which is totally fine.
Fair enough. Like,
because it is a big commitment. It is a big commitment. Like you said, it's a lot of sacrifices. You're not able to do a lot of the same things that a regular college student is able to do.
Right.
And a lot of people do have this vision of, you know, the 4 or 5, well, however many years of college that they go to being, you know, obviously you have your degree that you're working towards, but there's also a big social part of it, right? And joining clubs and making friends and going out and all these different things. And you get that as a student athlete, but in a very different way.
Right.
And so we just want to make sure that people are aware of it. Both are great. There's no right answer. It's just what's best for you and what you feel that like is going to be most beneficial for you.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like, put your mental health first. If you truly think that this is not the route you're going to take, then just focus on academics, focus on, you know, the clubs that you want to be in and go from there. But yeah, we'll be kind of taking it from a Division I perspective. But it truly does vary by sport. It varies by season, whether you're technically a fall sport, spring sport, or all year round, which is most of them nowadays. But yeah, when I kind of think back to when we got to our freshman year, it was overwhelming. Like, don't get me wrong, totally overwhelming. But at the same time, I felt like we were prepared and we were ready for it. And I think a lot of that stems from how, you know, we were brought up by our families. Our families are quite similar. You know, they were very rooted in athletics. They were very rooted in, you know, discipline in a good way, and not only discipline in athletics, but also academics as well.
Yep.
So I think we were pretty mature for our, you know, age at that time, which I am so thankful for. Like, shout out to our parents.
No, seriously. I think we had a much easier adjustment time compared to some other people.
Yeah.
And a big part of that, like you said, stems from our parents, from also just being aware of what it takes to kind of being able to balance all of these different things, because we were already getting used to that in high school coming into college. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, looking back, juniors, the schedule is pretty crazy as well. It's not like that's a walk in the park. I mean, especially the amount of matches you actually have to play in a weekend. Like, obviously they're not at the same level as university, but I mean, I think probably the record matches I ever played in a weekend was like 11, which is crazy. Because
normally for tennis in a weekend, the weekend is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's not Thursday through Monday. It's 3 days. So think about it. And sometimes it's even just half of Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So within the span of like 2.5 days, Peyton's playing 11 matches, you know, starting at 8 a.m., ending at like 8 p.m. because there's a trillion other people within the tournament. So they need to spread the matches out to make sure everyone gets a match in.
Exactly.
And it was crazy, but also, again, prepared us a little bit better for what was to come within college. Although college was a whole different animal because, well, college was good in the sense that we had that structure already built in for us, which was nice compared to juniors, especially if you're not in an academy. You kind of have to figure out your own practice schedule, your own travel schedule, all of these different things. But the good side of college is you have that built in with your coaches, your strength and conditioning coaches. All of the travels are already planned for you. The schedule's planned out for you. So you don't really have to worry about that side of planning, but it's just so much more intense because, you know, the competition is going to be that much more intense. You want to get that little bit more of an inch over other people. And also you have this commitment to your school to perform at the highest level that you can, because, you know, it's not the case everywhere, but in most cases you are there on scholarship. at least partial scholarship, right? So you have a commitment to the school to do what they brought you in and are, helping you get a degree to do.
Right.
And it culminates in a very, very busy and sometimes difficult to manage schedule.
Yeah, I think, wow. I'm just like thinking about it now. I'm like, that was crazy. But it is kind of what you sign up for at that point. You are a student athlete, so you do have to worry about both. But, for those that don't know, usually how it works is you have a certain number of hours that you can train in season and off season. So if you're in season, it's a 20-hour max week of training, and you get like 1 day off. Whereas in the off season, technically it's an 8-hour max week of training with 2 days off. However, that is for the countable hours. So technically, if you go out and you just hit with, one of your teammates or even with your full team, but without coaches there, that does not count towards that 8 hours.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of captains, quote unquote, practices during that time.
Right.
Because again, you don't want to just completely not train when you're out of season.
Exactly.
And I think another important thing to mention about the in season, so it's 20 hours a week. And also there's a maximum of 4 hours a day. You can't go over 4 hours a day.
Right.
Which is nice, but also 4 hours is kind of a lot of time.
Did you like off season or in season more, like practice wise?
I liked in season more. I didn't like off season because I felt that there was too much up in the air.
Yeah.
And again, I liked that better structure.
Yeah.
I liked having a set plan. And off season, again, we had the captain's practices, but I feel like it just wasn't as I don't know, intense, not as intense, but it just wasn't as easy to get focused and motivated during the off season.
Yeah. It was still hard. Like at that point in the off season, you're normally like, your strength training is going to be really difficult. Your conditioning is going to be really difficult because during in season, you're getting your conditioning. You're good. Like, obviously we do still do it, but not to the extent that we do off season, because when you're in season, I mean, you're already dead from playing. So it's not like you're
just trying to maintain rather than build strength, conditioning, endurance, whatever.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I did enjoy in season much more. And I also felt like if we were coming off of a match or like a really hard, travel or something like that, they would also give you some grace at the first practice. So you get a day off, but then you get a practice that's like, all right, like we're still feeling it. We're still a bit sore. Like, let's not hammer everyone into the ground again. You know what I mean? Yep. So that's what I did enjoy. But what I completely missed somehow during our time playing was, did you realize that competition only counts for 3 hours?
You mean a match counts for 3 hours? I did not know that.
No matter what. Like if it lasts 10 hours.
Were normally, some of our matches were like 4+ hours.
Yeah. No.
And it only counted for 3.
If it's like, if that's what it is, like if that's what they call it, the competition, if that's what they are calling the countable hours, it only counts for 3 hours. So
what about if we had a double header?
Good question. I actually don't know.
Or 3, because it's on the same day. Because guys, at least within tennis, there was a lot of times where we would have quote unquote double headers. So that's when you play, one match and then you have a second match against a different team later that day. And a lot of people try to stack those, double headers. And sometimes our men's team, I think, even had triple headers.
Yeah, that was insane.
They would try to stack them because you can play 2 teams and get 2 results, but it still only counts for 1 day of competition. So that's why a lot of people try to do that. But that's a good question on how many hours of competition it would count for.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
If it counted for 1 day, I feel like it would only count for 3 hours.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But we're not sure, so we'll get back to you guys. We'll do some research.
Yeah, not that that's like super important to our listeners, but I just thought that was really funny. I was like, wait, let me add all this up. But I think it's also important because in tennis now there's basically 2 seasons. So
yeah,
normally, you know, when we were playing, it was the spring season was the main season. Fall season was more so for like tournaments, kind of getting into things, you know, getting freshmen ready, kind of settled and everything, and kind of playing as a team. But you're going out and you're just playing tournaments. You're not playing like a full, you know, this is the lineup, blah, 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 whatever.
You're getting individual results. And in the spring, it was when you had the lineup and you're playing team versus team.
Yes, exactly. And so now they've actually switched the individual championships to the fall. I think they've been doing that since what year?
I think this was the first year.
This was the first year.
This past fall was the first year.
Yeah. So now they have individuals in the fall and team championships still in the spring, which I think when you look at it from a well-being perspective, I think it is good for the players because that is a lot of matches, like intense matches for those that are playing in the team championships as well as going into individuals. So I do understand that is kind of a great factor for it. But at the same time, my thinking is like, whoa, that's a lot of intense matches in the fall and the spring. And, you know, you kind of worry about that burnout. You worry about, I mean, I think it is good maybe for motivation because, you know, those matches are very important if you want to get to the championships. So I think the motivation is there, but it's also like, oh my God, your body's going through so much and mentally having to kind of keep up with all those matches, I think is difficult. But I don't know. I would like to ask players now, like what they think about that schedule, or if somebody's played, you know, our schedule, how we did it versus now, what they would think about it.
Yeah, I'm definitely super curious to hear. And I think one of the big reasons that they did that was A, for the burnout factor, right?
Yeah.
But also B, within tennis, there was also this thing that would happen, especially at maybe more of the elite schools where players would be allowed to go off and not play the fall college individual tournaments, and they'd go play a lot of the pro tournaments.
Right.
And I think they're trying to encourage people to say, like, if you want to be an individual NCAA champion, you have to play the fall.
Right.
So it's trying to encourage people to stay here, which I understand. I understand that part of it. But I think it would be really, really interesting. Again, looking back at it, I was reminiscing the past few days of just how crazy it was when we were in season in the spring. Our schedule, I think we should go through our schedules. So
yeah.
Within we played at Wake Forest, as we mentioned in the other episode, which is within the ACC. Also, the ACC conference got updated this past year too, so that's
everything's all over the place now.
Conversation as well. But
we'll get into that later.
In the time that we played in the ACC, it truly was just the Atlantic schools, so we would only really travel like on the East Coast, and then if we played any other schools out of conference, we'd have to travel further for those. But the ACC would play matches Friday, Sunday, right?
Yep.
I think there were some other conferences, like the SEC might have done Thursday, Saturday, but we did Friday, Sunday. So we would have, Monday normally as a day off within season, which was nice. Then we'd have like an optional recovery session. Monday is normally the day where you're really just trying to catch up on all your classwork and go to the trainer and recover from the weekend. Like you mentioned, Tuesdays, Thursdays. So Tuesday would probably be a little bit of a lighter practice if we really had a tough beat up weekend, if people were hurting. But Tuesday, Thursdays, we would have morning practice, right? So I think we practice for about 2 hours in the morning, maybe from 7 to 9.
Yeah.
And then we normally had a conditioning session from 9 to 9:45, if I remember correctly, or 9 to 10, something like that. And then Wednesday, Friday, if we didn't have a match on Friday, we'd practice in the afternoon. So that would be like the 3 to 6 p.m. practice or the 2 to 5 p.m. practice plus 5 to 6 strength and conditioning.
That was rough.
So, yeah.
Wednesday,
especially
Fridays.
Our freshman year, I was in the best shape of my life though.
Oh yeah, same.
But we were like putting in the work our freshman year. They were really on us in those.
Yeah, because we would lift and do conditioning in the mornings at like 6:30 in the morning.
And oh my God, yeah. I didn't even mention that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're separating the day basically. So you're basically going lift and conditioning in the morning, then go to all your classes after that, and then go to practice and try to have a good practice, which I always felt like the afternoon practices, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but I always thought the afternoon practices were way worse than the morning practices. And there's a reason for that, which I'll get into in a little bit.
Yeah. But anyway, so depending on the week, but normally Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I think we started at 6:45 or something, 6:45 a.m. lift for like an hour, go to class 8 to 2, 9 to 2, whatever you had. If you had class right after lift, you're also in class sitting there sweaty all day long, which was just beautiful, just lovely, just a great feeling. I'm sure you can tell. And then we'd have practice from 2:30 to 5:30 or 3 to 6. Yeah. So again, we're not going over that 4-hour max, but you can imagine how tiring that can be, because then you come home, you eat dinner, you shower, and you need to do all of your homework. And by the time you start your homework, it's 8:30, 9 o'clock, and you have Tuesday, Thursday, you have 7 a.m. practice, so you don't want to stay up too late. And then, you'd finish, I think we finished practice and lift and conditioning around 10:30 in the morning on Tuesday, Thursday, and you'd rush to your 11 a.m. class. Normally I had an 11 a.m. sit in class sweaty all day again. And that was kind of what our schedule would look like. We'd play on Friday, Sunday. So normally if we had to travel, we'd leave either Wednesday or Thursday, depending on how far we had to travel, to go somewhere. So you're also missing at least 2 days of classes. Right. During the season when you're traveling, you have that work to make up. If you have any exams, you got to make up. Yeah. You're traveling between schools on that Saturday in between, because you need to make it to the other place for that Sunday match. You get there kind of late-ish on a Saturday. You still got to practice lightly. And there was just not a lot of free time, right? So you'd be spending a lot of your time, especially when you're traveling, either trying to do your homework on a plane or a bus or in the hotel, or trying to recover, right? So, there's a lot of lingering issues or injuries that could come up, and you're just trying to do whatever you can to recover best and prepare for the next match.
I think it's funny when you bring up the homework as well, because I was always so nervous to go to my professors and give them that little sheet that shows them every date that I'm not going to be in class.
And it's like half a page long, like the dates.
They're like, okay, like you can probably take this class still. Like, great. I think most of my professors were pretty good about it, and they were actually like really interested in me being an athlete. So I think that was nice. But I think it helped that I was in like health and exercise science, so they were much more geared towards that. I feel like, what were your professors like in the business school and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it was a mix. For the most part, it was the same as you. They were pretty understanding. Wake is a smaller school, so the ratio of student athletes to just regular students was higher. So I think they got to deal with student athletes a little bit more, which helped. But obviously there was a few stragglers that, were maybe not as accommodating. I wouldn't say that they weren't accommodating at all, because they had to be, but they weren't as flexible with, for example, if I missed an exam for traveling, when I could take that exam, could I get an extension on certain things, So that was just another part of what you had to manage, right? For me, I kind of was like, okay, whatever, I'll just do whatever they want me to do. At this point, it's no use trying to, argue back with them. Like, if they really want me to take that exam, like 5 days before everyone else, I'll take it.
I don't pick your battles.
Like,
honestly,
it's fine, honestly, at this point, because I have so many other things I need to worry about. But I think for the most part, they were pretty accommodating as well, with a few outliers.
I agree. It was nice when they were like excited about you playing, and they would like ask you about your matches every time you came back. But there definitely were those ones that were like just not as enthusiastic, and they were like, okay, well, you need to like make sure you get notes and blah blah blah. I'm like, yep, I know. But I think, when I think about our travel days and things like that, I'm trying to like compare it to the other sports at Wake at the time. And, you know, we obviously had friends in different sports and mainly in like golf and soccer. And I just always found it so funny because I felt like with golf, they just, you know, went to the range whenever and just kind of like chilled and hit some balls
all the time.
And they were like national champions.
Oh yeah, they were unreal. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like they had their set practice times, but then they were also just there at other random times all the time.
Which, to be fair, they had a pretty sweet like practice building and range and course and everything.
Very, very nice.
Yeah, it's a really nice. Shout out Arnold Palmer. But it's just funny, like looking at the different sports and seeing how different, you know, their practice and training and lifting and all that stuff was. Like, I think with us, there you obviously have the component of private lessons as well, which is really unique to tennis. Like, you're not really going to see that in most of the other sports, especially team sports. Like you might go one-on-one a little bit with a coach, but not like a full-on like hour and a half long session of things you need to work on. So I always thought that was interesting. And, you know, I was talking to Alistair about like what his schedule was like, and they were obviously a fall sport. So he always came in early in the summers, which I actually kind of liked because you could kind of get ahead in academics, which was nice. Yeah. And I felt like by the time you'd go in at that summer session, you're like, yeah, I do want to kind of go back. Like, I miss my friends and things like that. Obviously not all your friends are there because, you know, they're away, but I always was kind of jealous of being a fall sport. I was like, oh, I really want to kind of like experience that.
I actually did the summer session 2, quote unquote, once the summer I did my master's program because my master's program started in July. And I really liked that. It was super fun. It was just a different community. It was good to see everyone on campus and kind of gear up for the fall, like you were saying, and really just put your head down and focus on the training. So yeah, after that experience, I really liked those summer sessions. And I thought that, you know, if tennis wasn't a quote unquote spring sport at the time, it would have been really fun to be there for at least part of the summer and just have time to focus on your academics and your training without having to compete yet. Right. Cause we come back in the fall and I think we're quote unquote in season for like a week or two. And then we have to go and compete in our first tournament. So this just gives you a little more time to really warm up and settle in.
Yeah. And definitely the part about getting ahead in school and stuff like that. Like, you know, you have to be doing at least 12 to 18 credit hours. I don't think really many people did 12. I think it was mostly like 15 to 18 you'd be doing. Yeah. So I do think that is the biggest difference between a professional athlete and a collegiate athlete. Like, for a professional athlete, this is your job. Like, this is what you're doing. This is your 9 to 5. You are just playing your sport. Whereas when you're a student athlete, you've got twice as many things to worry about, basically, because if you're not passing your classes, you can't play. So
you need to maintain at least a 2.0 GPA, right?
Yes.
To stay NCAA eligible.
Which, guys, if you can't maintain a 2.0, there's a problem. There's a problem. Like, don't get me wrong, university, college, it's hard, but maintaining a 2.0 is pretty easy at the end of the day. But at the same time, you do need to keep focusing on your academics and making sure that you are hitting those quotas, or else you will not be eligible to play. But I think, honestly, the most disappointing part about being a student athlete was I had to give up so many class choices that I wanted to take. Yeah. Like, for example, I love art, and I would have even probably like minored in it, and I would have loved to take the classes, but they were all at night for like 3 hours straight during our practice. And I was like, well, I guess I'm never going to take an art class ever again, because that's when they all were. I think, you know, our coaches did make some exceptions for like certain majors that you literally couldn't work around certain classes, which I think helped out a lot. And you just like leave a little bit early from practice. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like, you really were trying to work around a practice schedule and a class schedule, and that's pretty tough to do.
Yeah. I remember there was one class I had to take for my major, and they only offered it at one time, Tuesday, Thursday. I think it was at 9:30 a.m., which is, in the middle of our practice. So in that situation, I was able to take it. But other times, for example, I remember I had to take a chem lab from, I think it was 6:30 to 9 p.m. on a Monday.
Chem labs.
Because that was the only time that didn't interfere with our practice schedule. And it was not fun, but again, like you said, and there's so many classes that I just had to give up on taking as well, things I was interested in, or things that, were quote unquote electives for my major. So I didn't have to take it, but it was something interesting to me and I wasn't able to take it, and I take a different class instead.
Yeah, it was
so that is something to keep in mind.
Yeah. And I also think, like looking back at all the labs that I had to take that finished at like 9:30 at night, and I'd go straight from practice to the lab. And after, I just remember being so insanely exhausted. But then
also, you're not eating. You're not eating in between practice and the lab, which is not good for you.
I had like an Uncrustable, and I was like, all right, we're good to go. But then
on to the next.
But then I remember like halfway through the year, we started going to trivia nights, and that honestly got me through those labs. I was like, I'm only doing this for the trivia. I'm like, I'm ready. Like I need to get through this, and then I can go have fun, and then I can go pass out basically.
Yep.
So I think you do need to find like those fun things with either your teammates or anyone, on campus, and just go find something fun to do to kind of break up the monotony of constantly practicing, constantly going to class, constantly doing homework. It really is a balance of finding, those types of things. But, I think while we're talking about sacrifices, all of our sports now are year-round sports. There really is not a sport out there that has a down period. I genuinely am trying to think. I can't think of one.
Nope.
I can't.
For us, for tennis, you had to play all summer long if you wanted to be prepared for when you came for the fall. I would assume it's the same thing with, for example, soccer. They were a fall sport, so they had to come in July, sometimes even June,
something like that.
To start preparing. And it's like, okay, well, we just finished school in May, 3 weeks ago.
Right.
So there's not really that much of a downtime. And if you come in, there's a lot of schools and a lot of teams, they do it differently, but for the most part, there are a lot of fitness tests that you have to pass at a certain point.
Right.
Some schools are more strict about it than others. I've heard of schools doing, like if you don't pass the certain fitness test, you can't play until you pass it.
Yeah. There's also like, they won't give you like gear, like uniform and the fun stuff if you don't, which is really sad. I don't think that should be a thing, but whatever. And then also I think with the year-round kind of idea with all of the sports, training in between seasons is always a bit of a debate, because, you have the fall season, you have the spring season, you do have that little winter period right after the fall season where it's like your coaches are like, okay, well, you could sign up for this tournament or this tournament. And you're just in your head, you're just like, I would rather do anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. That was a really hard time for me. Because like you mentioned, we would just get so burnt out from the fall. And we also, for tennis, again, being a spring sport at that time, we would come back, I think it was like a week and a half or 2 weeks earlier before classes started at the end of January, so that we should also talk about those 2 weeks of quote unquote preseason before the actual season started in January, because those were intense.
They were insane.
So you knew that, you had maybe 3-4 weeks max before you had to be back at it.
Right.
So for me personally, I had, again, zero desire to actually go and play tournaments during this time. I just wanted to relax and give myself a break, because I knew that for the next 4 or 5 months, it would just constantly be go, go, go with no breaks. However, at the same time, like you mentioned, I knew that if I kind of let all of that fall work not go away, because it wouldn't go away that quickly, but not stay on top of it, I would be at a disadvantage when I came back, and it would be evident because we are all fighting for a lineup spot.
Yep.
You want to be as sharp as you can when you come back because there's not that much time to prepare before the first, matches start. Yep. So I typically, and like people did different things. Some people just didn't do anything at all over winter break. Some people played all the time. Mm-hmm. For me, what worked best was I think I'd take, I don't know, 5 days, like a week easy. Mm-hmm. Like I'd still hit, but like wouldn't really push it too much. Mm-hmm. And then I'd kind of start training. And then there was always this tournament right after Christmas that a lot of good players played. So I'd always just sign up for that one and, force myself to have a few matches under my belt before we came back. And it was, I'm going to be honest, it was miserable. I hated going to that tournament. I hated it. I absolutely despised it, but I think it was worth it in the end because I did feel most of the time, I did feel that I came back a little bit sharper than other people who maybe hadn't been playing as much. And we would have, quote unquote challenge matches when we would come back in between us. And mm-hmm. I felt like I had a little bit more of that match play under my belt more recently. But I think people just need to listen to their body and also their mind and see what's best for them. Because if you are completely, totally burnt out, you need to take that time to reset your body, reset your mind, and come back with a fresh feeling, right, for the season. Because it's not going to do you any good to just keep pushing. And then you come back and you're already burnt out before we've even started.
Right.
And then for other people who, maybe you're not as burnt out, but you just don't feel like playing, you might need to push yourself a little bit more and come back if you want that extra leg up. So you just need to listen to yourself and make the best decision.
Yeah. When I look back, I think it really did hurt me that I did not play any matches. I think at the time, for my mental health and physical, it was better for me to not play matches. But I think going into the season, it really did hurt me a lot. Not even just the playing part of it, but more so the kind of outlook that my coaches had on me almost. Like I felt like they were like, oh, well, this player played matches and she looks really good versus, I might still be playing good, but they're like, oh, but she didn't play match. You know what I mean? So I feel like there was a little bit of a judgment there, but I mean, which is totally fair because they obviously want their players to be at their best. So they want you playing matches. So yeah, I do feel like it did hurt me a little bit not playing them, just as general advice to you guys.
But also guys, Peyton, there were several years where Peyton played the most amount of matches in the summer leading into the fall.
That's true.
And do you feel like that helped you leading into the fall?
Yeah, I would say like before my freshman year, I played the whole summer and I played really good players as well in the summer that were already in university. And I think that really did help me going into that fall season. I think I was playing at my best at that point. So yeah, I do think that did help a lot. Because I really was playing probably at my best at that point because I got it was those ITA tournaments or whatever. I don't know what they call them now. I think the whole like summer is like a whole circuit now that you can play. Yeah. And almost win like a whole, I think they even call it like a national championship, but I don't know if people like technically take that as seriously as it sounds, but I do think that did help me a lot, which again, it is a struggle to take your summer and be like, hey, I'm going to go play like 3 tournaments and then go into fall season, which is really difficult, So yeah, I think it's going to be different for everybody, but you do need to still kind of find a balance. But I think that kind of leads into, at the end of the day, how are you going to reduce that burnout within yourself? You know what I mean? Because it really is so common in college athletics and in every single sport, because again, we are all year round, we're always playing. And I think with tennis, it is a bit more serious now because when you have those important matches in the fall and the spring, you really can't let off the gas. There really is no point to do that. And like I think about, when Alistair played soccer at Wake, they had friendlies in the spring, but it wasn't like it counted really towards anything. I don't know if that's changed now, but it wasn't like it would affect your ranking like it does for us, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In the fall and whatever, and then spring. And so I think it's important to kind of have tools to get through those periods so you don't get burnout. And I think a big part of that is habit forming. And so this can kind of help you in your academic life, and it can help you in your athletic life as well. You know, you can kind of use it all throughout. And so I think this actually came from Dr. Andrew Huberman. He's with the Huberman Lab podcast, or he kind of researched limbic friction, which is basically that kind of internal resistance that you have, and you know, the energy that you kind of need to overcome that resistance. And so you could think of that as like, if you have a really high stress situation, or if you just have a general lack of motivation or just fatigue. And that's obviously very common with athletes, and especially student athletes. And procrastination's that was a really big one for me. I was terrible at procrastination.
Yeah.
Like that.
I think it also didn't help me that I had really good, just to go off on a little tangent here before we get back into the habit formation. I procrastinated, which is horrible. We both did.
Yeah.
But I think we both also did such a good job of performing under pressure situations, quote unquote, as in
academics,
a deadline.
Not athletics.
Yeah. You have a deadline at 11:59 p.m. tonight, and it's 10 p.m. and you have to write a 5-paragraph essay or whatever. And we were like, all right, now I'm ready. Time to lock in. It didn't help that for Peyton and I, the both of us, we were able to like ultimately get that work done. We do not recommend this for other people,
No.
especially if you don't perform well under pressure. And that reminds me of this. Do you remember when Alex, our roommate, was trying to submit his music final?
I was thinking of this exact story as soon as you brought this up. I remember sitting on the couch watching this all happen.
So I'll make this a quick tangent, but he had, I guess it was a final or some project due at 11:59 that night. And he started submitting it through, I forget, what do we use? Canvas? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it was Canvas.
I think it was 11:52.
Literally.
He started submitting it, and you're just watching this thing upload at a snail's pace.
It's just spinning.
Like, it's just not moving. And I remember you, me, Alex, and Kyle just sitting there in our living room, just like screaming at the computer, being like submit, go. And I think Alex was sweating bullets. It had to have been a final, because otherwise he wouldn't care that much.
I think it was.
And 11:58 hits, and it finally uploads.
I couldn't believe it. I genuinely couldn't believe he got away with that. Yeah. It was like, wild.
And I think the thing was, he's like, okay, I'm not going to try to call him out here, but he had like not started it in enough time. Yeah. So that's why he had to submit it so late. Anyways.
Yeah. But like,
that was just a really funny story that popped in my head.
Yeah. But that happened to all of us. I mean, not to that extent. I did not wait that long, but it definitely happened to all of us, where we were like, okay, I might have waited a bit too long to start this.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think, this is kind of the idea of getting past that procrastination and fatigue that you have. And it really, a lot of it is about using, your own biology to actually form your habits, and how kind of your energy cycles throughout the day, like use it to your advantage basically. And so what they kind of say is you're dividing up the day into 3 phases, right? So you have different waking windows. So there's like 0 to 8 hours. That's your initial, kind of period. And then you have 9 to 15 hours, and then 16 to 24. So those are your 3 phases after kind of waking up. So for example, if you're waking up at 7 a.m., then it would be like 7 to 3, 4 to 10, and then like 11 to 7 a.m. the next morning or whatever. And so kind of how they break it up is, so phase 1, which is basically the 0 to 8, that's kind of when your nervous system and everything is elevated. So you think about like adrenaline and epinephrine, norepinephrine, adrenaline, things like that. And so that's basically kind of building up to its highest point during that period. And so that's kind of the easiest time to overcome that limbic friction. So to overcome, you know, the energy that you need to actually get through that procrastination that you're feeling or that anxiety that you're feeling, things like that. And so during that time, during those 0 to 8 hours, or for example, 7 a.m. to about 3 p.m., that's when you want to do habits that need a lot of like energy and focus, right? And so I think you can take that into a context of athletics and academics. So basically, you know, if you need to write a really complicated paper or a really long paper, or if you're at work, do the tasks that are the hardest first. And I think, you know, it's easier said than done. Obviously, like that's going to take a lot of practice. And so, yeah, for example, I think for me during that kind of window, and obviously sometimes you're not going to have control over your day or your schedule because, you know, you have to have those practices at a certain time. But like we were saying earlier, I think when we did have those early practices, so from like 7 to 9 a.m., those were usually our best practices.
I agree.
And when you look at the energy cycles, it makes sense. Like, even though it might be a lot to actually get to the courts and go through, you know, the whole painstaking process of that, at the end of the day, we had much better practices in the morning because, you know, we had that adrenaline kind of pumping through your body. And then at the same time, when you had the 3 p.m. practices, you were just like, I've done so much today and I'm done. Like I can't focus anymore, basically.
Yeah, I feel like that actually makes so much sense now that I think back at it, because I agree. I felt like the morning practices I did way better in, and we as a team did way better in as a whole, even if we were, you know, sleepy, tired, whatever.
Right.
Because we still hadn't, I feel like, used any of our mental energy towards anything else in that day.
Exactly.
Versus, you know, 3 p.m. practices, you've been in class for X amount of hours, and you also already had a strength and conditioning session at 6:30 in the morning. And oh my gosh, I'm so mentally and maybe even physically exhausted, and my brain is mush, and I have to go practice for another like 3 hours now.
Exactly.
So that makes a lot of sense why we would typically be a little more sharp, a little more crisp in these morning practices.
Yeah, I remember always dreading the afternoon practices because you just go through so much before that. And so I think it is helpful knowing that for coaches. Like, you might want to look at your practices and say, okay, when can I get the most morning practices possible? And again, that's going to be difficult with class schedules, but I would try to do it as much as possible, because once you get into phase 2, which is the 9 to 15 hours, you're basically looking at lower adrenaline at that point. And so during that time, you're looking at doing the habits that kind of need less focus. So almost like, you know, like cleaning or something like that, something that doesn't need, or like an easy assignment, you know, something that doesn't need like your full 100% attention. And so I do think that's why, you know, when we did have those 3 to 6 whatever practices, it was like, okay, like this is not going to be good. And we always tended to, I feel like we made more mistakes. It was just a lack of focus. It was, you know, some things may have happened during your day. Like you might have gotten a bad grade in your class and that's affecting you. Oh my God. There was one time where I was taking organic chemistry, which, first of all, guys, what even is that?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, that was not fun at all. And I remember, I think I got a bad grade on a test, and it was like the first test of, I think, the whole semester for that class. And I remember we were doing some doubles drill and we were all in a line. So we were hitting like cross court. And I just remember I missed like my 3rd backhand in a row in the net, and I just started bawling, crying.
Wait, I don't remember that. I must have been on a different court.
I don't think you saw me, but like Sabby saw me and she's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "No."
Sabby's like, "Dude,
I was like, "I'm not okay." And it had nothing to do with missing the shots. It was the fact that I just got a really bad grade and it was just really affecting me. And I think missing that 3rd ball, it was just like the last straw. And I just started bawling. I was like, I can't do this. So yeah, that's why I think sometimes you need to have morning practices. So it doesn't affect you as much, you know, if you have anything go wrong throughout the day.
I do think like from time to time, it's still okay to keep, and let me know if you disagree, but it's still okay to keep the afternoon practices in, because you will be having those afternoon matches. And like we were talking about last week, you need to simulate that kind of environment. So it's good to practice at the same time of day if you have, 4 or 5 o'clock match coming up versus
for sure
a 10, 11 a.m. match. But for the most part, if you want cleaner, crisper, more productive practices, they're probably better to keep them in the morning.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, definitely. If you have a match coming up that is a different time than usual, I would, leading up to that, a couple days before or a day before, definitely kind of focus on keeping that time as similar to the match time as possible, just to kind of get the mindset ready for the players and all of that. But yeah, and then really simple, that phase 3, those 16 to 24 hours, you need to rest. You need to sleep. Very important for student athletes. And again, it is much easier said than done, because you're going to have a workload. You're going to have to, at least have some sort of a social life. And so I think you need to pick and choose those times where, okay, I'm going to make sure I get this rest, especially before match days. And you can, pick the other times where you're like, all right, I'm going to go have fun with my friends and, actually have a college experience. And so I do think that is very important to prioritize sometimes. Yeah.
I mean, it's all about balance, right? And you need to be able to make a good decision, right? Not just based off of what you want, but a good decision for yourself. And you do need that social, right? But you also need to be responsible and understand when, I have an important exam coming up, I have an important assignment, I have an important interview for an internship or whatever. And I really need to prioritize that over me wanting to go stay up till 2 a.m. with some friends.
Exactly.
And I feel like you and I did a pretty good job at that.
Yeah. I feel like we knew when to prioritize certain things, and it just kind of takes me back to that one time that we decided to just take a trip to Nashville.
Guys, this was not during season. This was in our quote unquote off season.
Correct.
However, we were still practicing and in school.
Correct. So basically what happened was I was trying to keep a long distance relationship alive. And Anya was helping me do that. Yeah. And so basically what happened was my now husband. So I did keep the relationship alive, guys. My husband.
There is a light at the end of the tunnel, guys.
Yeah.
We can go into dating athletes in a different time.
Yes. Boyfriend at the time. He was playing for the Canadian men's national team. And so they were playing the U.S. men's national team in Nashville. And so I was like, I had serious FOMO. I was like, I have to go to this. Like, this is going to be like so much fun. And I dragged Anya into it basically and said, hey, we're going to go to Nashville. I think we had did we have 2 days off at that point?
I think we had Saturday morning practice and then we had Sunday off. So like technically,
right.
Like it was like an early morning practice or something like that.
Right.
Type of situation.
Yeah. So we went to Nashville that night. Did they play that night or did they play Sunday night?
They played Sunday night because we left right after the game.
Right. Yeah. So we got to Nashville Saturday night, just kind of hung out, went down to the bars for a bit. And I didn't even see 21. Alistair. We just stayed in his, we just stayed at his apartment. And then Sunday was the game, which was fun. And then we were like, oh, we want to stay so badly. Like Nashville's so fun. And we couldn't.
I think we were both in a 9 a.m. theater class on Monday, right? We were together.
That's exactly what class. It was. There's that stupid...
And we were like, oh, we had a quiz, I think was.
We did have a quiz. It was like really bad timing. So we were like, well, guess we got to drive through the night. And I think
we left at like 11 p.m.
Yep.
Sunday night, and we just like alternated driving through the night. I think we got back at like 4 or 5 in the morning.
It's like a 6-hour drive. Like it's not short. And I just remember we were like eating takeout like while driving, and I don't know how we did it to this day. But again, guys, sometimes you just got to do that. Sometimes you just got to live a little.
But see, like that weekend, we had the theater quiz coming up, but we had studied for it, okay? And we had prepared, okay? We weren't just shirking our responsibilities.
It also wasn't organic chemistry. It was theater.
Yeah, it was theater.
Intro to theater.
No shade at all.
Intro.
Yeah, it was like a little bit of an easier class.
Correct.
Yeah, like we decided that weekend, like we didn't have any important matches coming up. We didn't have any crazy fitness tests or exams. And we decided to prioritize our social life and like make good memories. It's still such a great memory. We talk about it all the time. Obviously, Peyton was also prioritizing her relationship. And I was just, along for the ride. I was a willing participant in that. I had a great time. I was not dragged. And it was a really great and fun weekend. And,
it was.
I think it really helped because I think the next few weeks/weekends, we didn't have any time off. Like we really started ramping up the training and then all the tournaments started. So
it's like the last hurrah.
That really helped. Yeah, it was the last hurrah. That really helped us kind of, get that like last taste of
freedom.
Well, I mean, yeah, freedom. And the next weekend, I think we stayed in a lot and we studied and we trained. So again, it's all about balance, right?
Yeah. And I think, Anya was a great support system that I had during that time, obviously. And it's shocking. It's shocking because we were roommates and teammates for 4 years, y'all, straight.
Yeah.
That is hard to do. That is really like, that's a testament to our friendship, I think, because how we didn't get sick of each other was pretty impressive. Impressive.
I mean, I think that just shows like, we're both different people, but we also had very similar values. And like ways that we went around things. So we got very fortunate in that.
Yeah.
But also, we just became so close and we were each other's like confidence. And I think that we were able to somehow keep our relationship strong when you see so many other people who spend this much time together.
Yeah.
And it happens a lot. Just get into fights or get sick of each other.
Right.
They now hate each other. So shout out you, Peyton.
But I think it was also great because we could just vent to each other after practice. Just like, what just happened there? Like,
did you see that?
Did you see what she did? Like, she pegged her, but then she didn't say sorry. And then
she tried to peg her back.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that was almost like fun that we would just get back. We're like, did you see that?
Yeah. It was great.
But I think, that's one form of support I had. Whereas I think other times I would go to like my family or I'd go even to like coaches I would go to, or I thought it was also really important to have friends outside of sport as well, because I did love talking to you, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, you did kind of need that outlet where you didn't even talk about sport. It was just like maybe what's going on with classes or, just having a regular conversation.
Get your mind off of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that's a form of support that I found helpful. And then also I didn't use it during college, even though I should have, but if there are sports psychologists available to you or like mental performance coaches, I think they are honestly very, very helpful. I know I'm really biased because I am a mental performance coach. But I think at the end of the day, like if you are getting to a point where it's getting too difficult for you or you are experiencing burnout or that anxiety or something like that, then I think it is important to get that professional support to help you cope with those feelings and those issues.
100%. And even if it's something not as serious, but you're just having a hard time, managing your workload plus practice, they have great suggestions for strategies on how to better help. And it just sometimes just helps to talk to someone who, is going to be like neutral and unbiased. Because, you talk to your parents and sometimes they might be like, well, you should just like get your work done on time. Like, what do you mean? Blah, blah.
They're like,
or you talk to your friends and they're like, like you talk to your friends and like, obviously they're going to be like supportive of you. And sometimes you just need that like neutral, unbiased, like third party to talk to, even about if it's not, a serious thing that you're struggling with, but you just need some help with strategies and coping mechanisms just to talk to them.
Right. And speaking of, I think One thing that I've learned recently that I actually use kind of in my day-to-day life that I wish I could have implemented into kind of my university life as a student athlete is mindfulness. And, this is some people might be like, oh, this is stupid. Like, I've heard of this. Mindfulness sounds ridiculous. And I'm like, actually, no, there's actually some pretty helpful things, within kind of the subject of it. And I think the biggest part of it is staying in the present moment. I think as a student athlete, you're more focused on the past and the future. You might be looking at like past mistakes or things like that, or you're looking at the future like, oh, well, if this happens, then I need to do this or blah, 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 things like that. And so I think it's like staying in the present almost like quiets your mind a little bit. And, you have so many things going on. So being able to use this to kind of get through those super, super long days is really important. And I like to do it in the morning. And I kind of get this from, there's a book called The Confidence Gap. And I would highly recommend it to people. I think it's by Russ Harris. And really the whole idea of it is like kind of the cliche of smell the roses. And so it's really just having that present engagement in your morning routine. And so what I do is I basically choose like a task out of my day, and it can be something like really simple. It could be like making breakfast. It could be showering. It could be making tea, brushing your teeth, literally anything. And what you do is you're basically giving your full attention to all of your movements, your taste, your touch, smell, sight, sound. So all of your senses, you're just giving your full attention to all of those senses. And so like, for example, if you're making breakfast, you might kind of notice the sound of like the pan sizzling, or you might notice like the steam coming off of it, or you like feel the warmth of the pan or the stove or something like that. And it's actually crazy. Like when you do it, you're not thinking about a million bajillion things like I normally do. You know what I mean? And so like, even if you're like making a cup of tea, you're just like, you taste the tea, you can, smell the aroma of it, you can feel the warmth of the cup, and you're just kind of like taking your mind into that space and just focusing on those little things. So in that moment, that's all you're focusing on. Yeah. And then you're not thinking about, oh, well, I have to do this later. Oh, I have to do this later. You're not thinking of all those stressful, things that you have to do eventually. So it gives you that moment of peace. And I honestly really, really like doing it in the morning because it just calms my mind a little bit, because Lord knows my mind is constantly running and constantly like, okay, well, I have to do this for the podcast, and then I have to do this for my mental performance coaching, and then I have to reach out to this person. And it's just like all those tasks going through my mind in the morning. It's like, okay, let's take a second. Let's just stay, in this moment. Let's stay present and just like take 5 minutes. That's all it takes. You know what I mean? And so I think that type of mindfulness is really easy to do, and it only takes about 5 minutes out of your day, and it's easy to practice and it's easy to get down. So that's something that I definitely suggest before starting your very hectic day as a student athlete.
Yeah. I wish I knew about this before. Because I have that exact same problem. The second I open my eyes, I'm like, all right, so first I have to do this, and then I have to do this. And oh my God, I totally forgot to go to the grocery store. And oh my gosh, what am I going to do tomorrow when I have blah, 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 blah. And so I will try this. I will report back next week on how it went.
Please do.
Because also, not to get too like philosophical here, but life moves fast.
It does.
We were in college over 3 years ago together.
I graduated in 2022.
Almost 4 years ago together.
2026.
And it just like, it flies by. And sometimes I'm not going to get too deep into this, but sometimes I look back and I'm like, guys, this is going to turn into a therapy session. I just wish I'd enjoyed it more, and I wish I'd stayed more present. That's all I'm trying to say. Because it flies by, and like it's 2026. Yeah. Anyways,
you're never
that's all I wanted to say.
Like, you're never going to be able to do that again. Like, specifically being a student athlete.
You're never going to get that time back.
Yes. At a D1 university, like, enjoy that moment. Like, that's pretty sick. I mean, I wish I would have just, I wish I would have cherished it more. Because I feel like I was just
worrying so much.
I was just so worried about so many things. And I feel like I really didn't take the time to just sit back and be like, yeah, this is pretty cool. Like,
yeah.
I get to be with my teammates every day. I get to, do a sport that sometimes I love, sometimes I hate, but
love-hate relationship.
Again, like I look back, I'm like, God, I wish I would have just like taken that in a bit more. So I do think staying present is important for really all aspects of your life, because you're only getting older. I feel old and I'm 26. So at the end of the day, when we're talking about all of these different things that we had to do and what your schedule might look like it's pretty much impossible to give 110% in everything that you're doing. So don't expect that of yourself. I think at the end of the day, just be as efficient as you can. Try not to procrastinate like us. But
try to stay organized.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah. But like, again, perfection is not possible. Have fun with it. Again, you only get to do this once. And so enjoy it. It only lasts so long.
Yeah. Yeah. It really, really flies by really quick. And just make sure that you stay balanced, organized, present, and it's going to be a blast.
Exactly. And yeah, like at this point, we're both, working, and you have the rest of your life to work. And so less than 2% of NCAA athletes go pro, guys. So
what's the statistic?
Less than 2% of NCAA athletes go pro. So if you go pro, fantastic. Good for you. At the same time, it's probably not going to happen. But you have your rest of your life.
Believe in yourself, though.
Yeah, believe in yourself. But at the end of the day, be realistic.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no. I think when you have the rest of your life to work, you need to take this moment and cherish your time as a student athlete. And that's kind of what we wanted to get at today, really. And so, it's going to be hard, guys. If you are going into Division I sport, it's going to be difficult, but at the same time, congrats. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And not a lot of people get to do that. So, I think, I think that's pretty much it for this episode, but we will see you all next week, and we can't wait for the next episode.